Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Park and Recreation Committee meeting of Victoria, City of Victoria for Monday, September 1, starting at 6:30 p.m. We're meeting in the council chambers. And also anyone who is listening to this live or recording, welcome and thank you for your interest in the Park and Recreation Committee activities. The first item is going to be call to order. So consider call to order has happened. And then we're going to do a roll call. And you want to state your name for the record and go around Robin here.
Okay, Larry Schultz present.
Jeanette June, present.
Judy Iverson, present.
Mary Larson, present.
And John Carlson present. And we have a quorum. That's great. And also staff support, Ann and Minky.
Yep.
And Ann, do you want to make a reference as it relates to an additional member, Amber Hutner, resigned from the committee last month because of some personal items?
Sure.
Items, and you've got some news to share, I believe?
Yeah, sure. Back in, I believe it was March, the city council had a first up and second up in line for a couple people that had interviewed or applied for the Park and Rec Committee. And with Amber's resignation, I will be taking to the city council the approval of the first up. His name is Brian Vincent. So he will be joining us and filling the term of Amber's, which goes until March 31 of 23. So he'll be joining us shortly.
Thank you, Ann, and Brian, if you're watching, we look forward to having you join the committee. The next item is approval of the minutes from our last regular meeting, which was held on August 17th. Do we have a motion to approve?
John, before we go, I'd like to add a little section on the minutes. It talked about the pickleball, the Twin City Pickleball Club membership being $15. I just wanted to add that membership is optional in order to play. I didn't want it to sound like you needed to be a member in order to play. So if we can just clarify that, that would be great.
Alrighty, so noted. Actually, I was going to ask if there were any comments on it, but that's good. You preempted. That's good. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
And is there a second?
I'll second, Judy Iverson.
Okay, and do we have any corrections or so forth? And the $15 is optional.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Assuming that's a friendly motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay? Minutes are approved? Great. The next item is petitions, proclamations, suggestions, or complaints from citizens, committee members, or staff. Is there anything that any of you would like to bring from the community or from yourself or Ann, either?
I have nothing to report.
All righty. And then we're going to move on to old business and park projects update for Wassermann Lake Preserve, also Deer Run tennis courts and Lion Park parking lot. So we've been a busy little beaver group here, I think, with help from Ann. So Ann, do you want to take some time to walk us through that update?
Sure. Good evening, members. So we do have several park projects that are in the works. Most notably the Wassermann Park, or Wassermann Lake Preserve Park. So I do have some pictures to show you that I will run through just to kind of give you, obviously pictures don't tell the whole story, but just to kind of see where we're at. So the paving of the first lift coming in and then through the parking lot area has been done. The trails have been paved. There's still a lot of shouldering work to do on them. So the island work and the gravel trail has been installed. The stream bank stabilization and reconstruction is done. The natural play area and the log stepper are installed. There's still a little bit of work to do on those yet. Fire pit is installed, and then the clearing area and the loose parts area also have been installed. Also, the wood chip trail that runs along the lakeside is done. And the shelter is a work in progress. I'll show you where we're at today with that. So there's still some work to do with some tree removal and trimming. The shelter needs some more work to be done. There will be some seeding and sodding that will occur yet, and some tree planting. So it's estimated, the contractor indicated last week that they thought they'd be pretty well done by mid-October. So I am going to show you a few pictures. So this again is the entryway coming in. Here is the shelter about 2 weeks ago. And at that time, when I took pictures, they were starting to install the metal for the roof. And then last week, I will show you soon here. So we're at this point as of last week. So the roof had been installed. So that's coming along well. This week, they're actually supposed to be pouring concrete, so we'll have that all done throughout the area as well. So that's looking up at the shelter from the lakeside.
Yeah.
So
How'd you
this is
get that picture?
This is the stream banks. I did stream bank stabilization a couple weeks ago and then last week. So you can see how everything is coming in nicely. The trail connection to the neighborhood has been done. This is the wood chip trail that runs along the lakeside. Here is the natural play area, or the nature play area. A little bit of a close-up. The next picture will show the log stepper, the log climber. So that was about 3 weeks ago, and then that was last week. So you can see all the trails that have been paved throughout that area. That's the connector tunnel between the two. That's the fire pit area, so there's still a little bit more work to do on that. This is that clearing area where the loose parts is programmed for. Wood chip or the gravel trail out to the island. And this is on the island itself. And then the fishing pier that was put in last winter. So that's kind of a quick rundown of Wassermann.
If we could maybe just take these one at a time, Ann, see if there's any comments or questions from the group.
I just had a question about signage. Will that be in then in the spring, or will that be in this fall yet?
We're still hoping that that's going to be fall, but it could potentially run into next spring, for sure. But we're working on it. Some of the elements will be done, and some of them won't. So.
Great question. Other comments or questions?
And I was looking at the log climb thing. Boy, that looks scary to me. I'm kind of going, is that going to be a big accident-prone thing?
It's really not.
Oh, okay.
Once you're on site there and you go look at it and actually do it, it's all good.
Oh, good. I just looked at the picture and went, whoa.
Broken ankles.
Yeah, or something, yeah. Well, that's good to know. I wondered if it was the angle that I was looking at.
Yeah, it's really, it kind of climbs the hill gradually.
Okay.
So the pictures, like I said, don't do it real justice, but it's a pretty gradual,
Okay.
It's a good workout though.
Yeah.
Judy,
Anything to share? Or ask?
No, I think it looks great. Is it still blocked? We can't just mosey over there and see it?
Generally not.
Okay.
It's still closed off for construction, so.
Oh, and I was going to ask, have you had any complaints or concerns from the neighbors so far?
Early on, we had a couple because people were still going through and kids were going out and lighting fires out on the island. and drinking beverages.
Yeah.
But that has pretty well stopped, so, throughout the summer, we really haven't had any complaints.
Okay,
So,
good.
been going well.
Okay, good.
And, it's wonderful, thanks for the pictures, because it's great to see it, you can reference it, but to see the pictures. And it's exciting because it's been a long time. So it's just really, really exciting to see all the progress. And I hate to even bring this up because we're not completed yet, right? But, I'm sure you guys have given thought to, okay, this thing is completed. How are we handling this as it relates to an opening and public being able to have access to it? And of course, you as staff are having a great opportunity to deal with strategies with COVID all the time now.
Yep.
How would you like to respond to that?
So, we are the watershed district, and staff and I are working, beginning to think about what something would look like in fall. We're kind of looking maybe at a Saturday morning to get the elected officials, the board, and city council out for a photo shoot grand opening. And then we're trying to figure out the best way to handle like people, if people would need a reservation, or if we do it for a short stint of a couple hours that people could come and go. So we haven't gotten into those details yet. And certainly when you start getting into November, weather can always be a factor. So, and there will likely be some incidental work yet that's not done on site. So we're kind of thinking, do we want it completely done, and do we wait until next spring to do the grand opening? So we're kind of talking through those details right now. So more to come.
Yep.
But we're trying to figure it out.
I know as a frequent user of the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum, we walk out there a lot. And even if you don't walk, if you just want to go out there, it's on a reservation system, whether you're a member or non-member. I think that's would be a really good approach to take to limit, have some control.
Yeah. So, yeah, and we've only got so many parking spots, and so we're trying to figure out those details, so.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Ann.
Yep, so one of the other projects that we began late this summer was the Deer Run tennis court. It was a complete reconstruction. So I took this picture again last week. So they had a few bird baths that they had to fix up, and you see those, and the striping is scheduled to occur sometime very soon, and then there's some additional fencing that needs to go in, and we also did provide an ADA access at the parking lot as you come into the site. So I'm hopeful that this will be done real shortly here. So that's kind of the status on that one.
Yeah, the only thing I would add on that, it's, I don't know if others of you have gone to look at that. It's not, even if you know where it is, you go, oh yeah, I think that's where it is. Normally we don't have to do this for our parks, but on that one, it's where we should have some consideration to some kind of signage that's, not just right there, but some signage that's further out in the Deer Run development, a directional sign. And then also maybe some kind of promotion for it within the Deer Run Association itself. Otherwise, I think it's great.
Certainly something I can look at. Most of the people in Deer Run, they're the ones that use this one, so they know it's here. But yes, others that it's a really long cul-de-sac, and tucked way back in. So it is challenging to find if you're not familiar with it.
maybe that's part of the idea, I don't know, but should be accessible to everybody, of course, and it is. Lions Park parking lot?
Yeah, so Lions Park, finally, the contractor mobilized last week, and they started up last Friday, and will continue on a hopeful, weather dependent, they should be in and out of here, hopefully within about 6 weeks. So I did not take any pictures of that because it was still just a gravel parking lot last week, so.
And it might be hard to get excited about a parking lot, but I get excited about that parking lot because of all of the activities that go on at the park itself, tournaments and et cetera, and you know, all kinds of activities. Plus, it's spillover. The Lions Club, you know, has events, and it's also useful for St. Victoria Church. So, I think it's, you know, it's been such a, anybody that's been in there and seen the swamp gravel pit that it is and having to use it, I think will greatly appreciate this being paved.
12 years in the making.
You know, I think we might even be able to get an article in the Victoria Gazette on this one. Knowing our historian that is involved with the Gazette.
And I just, while we're talking about it, before we go to something else, is there any thought, well, I should look at the 20-year plan or the 40-year plan, but you know, those houses that border the park, the duplexes, and then I think there's like 3 houses. Has the city considered that eventually if the park wants to get bigger, that they would purchase those homes?
I have brought that up, and I've brought it up.
Yeah. I guess what makes me think, 2 of them are up for sale right now, or one is sold.
Yeah, one
but
sold, yeah.
If the park ever wanted to expand, and I
Yep.
guess we would, those would be a logical purchase to give the park more property, more
Yep.
space to do some more things.
Yep, and that's, here is the
Right.
areas, yeah.
Yeah.
And this one just sold and this one's for sale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do know in the intersection of the intersection that we're talking about, that area, that the decision was made to not put a roundabout in, but to put in stop lights because of the fact that it was going to take more space to put a roundabout, and to me that implied that there wasn't really going to be any discussion of lots being purchased. Otherwise, perhaps a roundabout might have been possible, but I don't know. I don't remember there being any specific discussion on that topic by the council.
Yeah, there was, I think that it became too expensive for property acquisition, so, I mean, you're probably, I mean, just a rough guess. You know, you're probably in the $800 to $1 million to buy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I know it had been brought up several years ago.
Okay, yeah, good. It's a good question, and I must admit I've thought about it myself. All righty. Our next item is new business, and I kind of did a double take when I saw it was new business, but then I do realize that last time it was not really an agenda item. It was something that was brought up by Jeanette and also some Victoria residents who came to the meeting. So this is a new item, but it's follow-up. Thank you, Ann, for doing some work on this so we can discuss the topic further of potential for outdoor pickleball courts. And so if you want to go through that, I think what you're looking at this point for is to give us more information and also to get any feedback that we may have and just
Certainly.
take a look at it further as a serious item.
And happy certainly to have Jeanette chime in too if she would like. So since this was her idea and baby. So yes, at the last meeting we talked and had people visit us to talk about outdoor pickleball courts. And so I kind of wanted just to get going on getting some research done. And as you guys know, I mean, pickleball is a very popular sport that's growing rapidly across the country, and I'm sure across the world as well. But you know, we do provide indoor space at the recreation center, a lot of space at the recreation center indoors. And that has, you know, we've seen an explosion there with more people and more times. So I, you know, kind of did a little research around our area here and found that, you know, Chanhassen, Eden Prairie, Chaska, and Mound have recently put in outdoor pickleball courts, and I'm sure Jeanette can speak to those. So one of the things that I wanted to talk a little bit about was the cost associated with it. You know, a lot of the cost will be dependent on if you use an existing surface, such as a tennis court, or if you construct new. With new construction, really rough estimate I found was between $50,000 and $100,000, and it really depends on a number of things, including the existing site and how much grading, you know, what the soil conditions are. Other factors include the number of courts that you build, and the things that I'll call them accessories, whether that's tables or shade, lighting, to name a few things that other places have. So obviously if you use an existing surface, it becomes a lot less expensive. So kind of the general lowdown on the costs associated with them without getting into too specific on it. Location is probably another factor I think that is critical to the success or not success of pickleball courts. And it really stems from the noise, you know, twofold, the paddle and the ball. You know, it's a wiffle ball that they use generally a wooden or graphite paddle with. And when it's hit, it does make a pretty loud popping noise. And then too, you've got people that play the sport that can also contribute to noise. So, you know, ideally you want them as far away from homes as you can get them. Looking at what, and I'll go through a couple locations that I've just kind of at least started thinking about. But we don't have a lot of existing space that I think it'll work. You know, a couple locations that I'll get into in a little bit, you know, would require a change of something, whether that's a ball field or a parking lot or a soccer field. That would end up being a trade-off that you'd have to do if you at a couple of the locations. So the other thing that I wanted to touch on is the maintenance of outdoor pickleball courts. They're just like, basically just like tennis courts, and they require, you know, annual maintenance, from cleaning and sweeping to the purchasing of nets, garbage, and then the long-term maintenance. You really have to redo with our winters here. You know, they just take a beating, and so you've got to redo the court surface itself every 5 to 8 years in order to keep it up. So that's another consideration to look at when we're thinking about pickleball. So one of the spots, you know, I had talked briefly about this is at Lions Park. These courts are getting reconstructed next year, or they're planned to be reconstructed. You know, one of the things that, you know, again, this would require a change of use because tennis courts and pickleball courts don't work well together. So you almost have to have them separately generally in order to make them functional for the users. But as you can see, the proximity to homes is pretty close. But one idea, another thought that I had was, Field 5 is pretty underutilized within the system. It's just not a regulation field, and so we have looked at reconfiguring, putting more additional hockey boards out here and making this more of a pleasure rink. But so another thought that, would this work? One of the several challenges when the ball fields are being used to get pop flies. We have installed some netting, but there still is some random balls that do fly up. And also, the parking lot is a little bit far away. I don't know if that would be a major factor, but it is something else to consider with Lions Park. So that's it on Lions. I'm happy to answer any questions related to this, or Jeanette, if you have anything to add.
No, I was thrilled with all the material that you gathered, Ann, and the research you've done. So I, was really happy to go through it and that. And as I looked at Lions Field, I said the same thing. You're still so close to those homes that I think people would just be terribly annoyed by that noise. So I kind of didn't look at that. Plus, I didn't know, too much what the dimensions were. So I didn't really consider that too much.
Yeah.
I thought, well.
Yeah, for dimensions, and I didn't put them in this one. I just kind of put a blob on there to represent that it would be pretty close, to size. Pretty close. I mean, if you look at the tennis courts.
Yeah.
How many courts would that be?
6-ish probably. Or that's what you'd want to, I think Jeanette had made note that at the last meeting that you'd really want 6 of them. So. So the next slide I wanted to provide, because I know Jeanette said, the rec center would be the ideal spot. We're pretty well built out at this location between the stormwater features, parking lots, and soccer fields and ball fields. So we've got a 3 complex, 2 softball and a baseball field, 1 soccer field out here, and then this is a large soccer area that usually accommodates 3 fields in the spring and fall. So we did put up some courts in here several years ago, but there was no fencing. But we now have this pretty well covered with our skateboard park. So you'd be looking at here, the removal of some sort of facility, whether that's, could you utilize, an area here? You're starting to get close to these houses again. And I know, Jeanette, you had asked about this area up in there. It's just not big enough to accommodate.
I
So,
thought it would be too small, but.
yeah. So that was one site that I know wanted to be looked at.
I think with this site, you'd be robbing Peter to pay Paul on these, because just living in the area and going by there quite a bit, every activity area gets used. So just like the other site has its problems, isn't a perfect site. This one has some legitimate challenges. Not one of them as well as potentially noise, because we've got a couple neighborhoods too here in all directions.
So in my thinking and thoughts, the other idea that came to me was Holy Family. So we have a partnership or agreement for the use of the tennis courts, the existing tennis courts here. So again, I'm like kind of looking at the site and saying, okay, is this something that could possibly work? It's a pretty, like if you drive along this, it's pretty heavily wooded. And I don't know what the dimension is from here to the nearest homes, but it was something just to think about. So I have contacted Holy Family. And we'll be setting up a meeting shortly to start talking to them about it. They didn't say no. I think, with them, I mean, it could certainly be an extracurricular activity for them through the school, or physical education classes. Because our partnership with them on the tennis courts works pretty well, so, that was just another idea that popped into my head, as far as space. And otherwise, just the rest of the park system is a majority of neighborhood parks, that really wouldn't be able to accommodate 6 courts. So unless we waited into the future until we get another community park, which is, in the comp plan, but I can't tell you when it's going to be out there. So
In looking at the space, it's not just a level field. It's got some
Yeah, it's got,
topography to it. It is some nice green space that they may find attractive for enhancing their overall facility. So they may or may not be interested. One positive for it would be the parking's already there. Also, it could be a way of promoting, from a city perspective, the use of the existing tennis courts for residents, because, if I wasn't on this committee, I probably wouldn't even know that those are usable. I'd swear they're maybe private courts. Now, that's maybe a different issue that we could do a little bit better job of promoting that. It might be the best site of all three, but this isn't our call, for one. And it may not be perfect either. So I'm curious, in terms of just giving Ann some guidance on these three, just starting with that. Noise is a huge issue. I'm assuming we're far enough away from these other
right, it's got a
Savannah.
major road in between.
It's Savannah Valley. You think that's far enough away, Ann? That part of it?
yeah, and that I can, my first thought was just to try to get a conversation with the school district to see even if it would be an option. And, I kind of just threw some dimensions in here and not,
When Ann first mentioned this to me, I went, really? I didn't know the tennis courts were a combination of the city and Holy Family either. So when she suggested, looking at Holy Family, I went, wow, that would be, it's got a lot of things going for it. It's far enough away from homes. It's got a street in between the neighborhood and that. So that helps buffer. It's got parking that's right there. And then when I looked at the size, I mentioned it to a couple of the people on the pickleball club. They went, "Oh, that looks like a good site." The questions, I just wanted to pass this on to you. When I had one of them that develops courts, has said it's recommended, at least by people who play, that a court would be 36 by 66. Because that gives enough room for the higher level players to back up for deep returns and also for do a shot we call around the post. If you've got them too close together, they can't do that shot. So their recommendation is a 36 by 66 for a court.
okay.
Also, when they looked at this, they said it looks like can you get a true north-south orientation? It looks like it's angled a little bit.
Yeah, I was trying to, there's quite a few trees on the
Yeah,
site too,
yeah.
so.
But I just wanted to
Yeah,
throw that in.
Yep. No,
But
I know you
otherwise,
mentioned that
they were
last time.
excited, and, if Holy Family would do a buy-in, and I went through all the material that you gave us, because the obvious thing comes down to cost, and I know Hopkins' 5 courts were like $262,000. Minnetonka's 8 were $410,000. I wouldn't consider Eden Prairie's because they've got the sand pit and a tennis court attached to it. So that figure is all of them together. But I would bet with that, you certainly, I think you could probably get 8 courts in there. When he looked at the basic dimensions, he said that's 12, but that's looking at the minimum.
Yeah.
So,
And it was just to kind of figure out
Yeah,
what
yeah.
sort of space we had
Yeah.
available too, so.
So, and they certainly would help with design or laying out or questions. And, but I'm excited about if there's a partnership, like if the Lions Club would participate in, I know the Eden Prairie Lions contributed to that. And, so I mean, it's still just looking at, I realize we're still at the initial, like, is there even a place to have it? So that would be the next step, is Holy Family amenable to it, would be the next step.
Yep.
And then, I don't know what we do after that, I mean, so anyway, but I mean, people got really excited about that. And again, thank you, Ann, for all your research, you know, and reading through all the materials was very helpful.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Ann. Does anybody else want to jump in on this topic? Because we'll probably be moving on at some point here.
Well, you know, it's gonna come down to location and cost, so, and priorities for the city. So, we have a lot of other, I know there was that one document that you included, and with kind of the cash outlay the next few years, and, it's a matter of how do we fit that all in.
Yes, yes, capital improvement plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing. I'm a supporter of the pickleball courts. To me, the trail connections are the number one thing that I think our community wants. So if I had to prioritize things, I'd put trail connections as our top priority. I would put this as above other things like park improvements. I'm not talking about Wassermann Park. I think obviously that's in the works. That's going to be, funded. But when it talks about repairing tennis courts and that sort of thing, I guess if this pans out where we have a place for it, I would hope that we could utilize some of those dollars that we're going to use to repair that tennis court to put towards a pickleball court if the timing comes up right. And I say that, but I still think, it seems to me we have enough tennis courts in town. May not be the ones that people are used to using, but like several people here have said already tonight, and I would have thought the same thing. I would have thought that Holy Families was a private facility. I wouldn't, if I still played tennis, I probably wouldn't go there because I didn't know it was open to the public or publicly, there's a partnership there. Mm-hmm. So I think seems to me there's enough tennis courts in the community. So instead of spending money on rehabbing the ones that we have, if we could take those dollars and put those towards a pickleball facility, recognizing it can't go to where those courts are today because of the proximity to neighbors and that. But if this other thing works out, I would be in favor of moving the pickleball piece up to right behind the trails connections as a priority.
Yeah, I don't think any of this in the CIP capital improvement plan that's existing in that plan or the pickleball competes against the trail, because the trail has really got its own separate fund. Granted, it's all money from the city, but I don't think it competes. But that you give some good points, I think. Other thoughts, Mary? Anything? Okay. I'll weigh in a little bit here. I think that, Ann, thank you. Echo everyone else on that and really jumping on this and researching it. I think if Ann's going to follow up with Holy Family, which I think is very great, a great idea, because that could be a win-win for them. Maybe, and it may be viable, but I'll keep it as maybe. I think the other sites are very problematic. And I don't think we have a natural site right now. And we may not. It just we'll see about Holy Family. One thing too is how much would we really have to spend for it? And if it's brand new, it's going to cost more as opposed to using an existing, retrofitting existing courts, and that doesn't seem like we're going to be doing that. So I think we really need to see what is the actual cost would be, because we aren't sure on that, and I don't know we want to go there right now.
Well, you know, like anything else, it would require engineering services. You know, it's similar to anything else that we build, whether it's a trail or a parking lot. It would require engineering services to do a preliminary design, and then a final design for, you know, what the construction looks like, whether, you know, and again, soil is a critical thing. Like Lions Park, it was built on a swamp basically, so the soils there are terrible. That's why the parking lot looks like it does. So we'll be putting sand in for that parking lot, you know, and there's X number of inches of gravel and pavement. You know, requires fencing. So those are all things that would come later on to get we can get a rough estimate on it, but if you're moving forward with something like that, you'd want to get engineering for it, so.
And, you know, maybe what some of these other cities have done might be able to get us, not certainly the specifics
Yep.
of an engineering say,
Yep.
maybe get us a little bit better idea as long as we're comparing apples to apples. But I think at this point, really, it's the next step is talking Holy Family, and everything else is sort of, we're speculating, I guess, when we go beyond that. As it relates to the capital improvement plan, and thank you for bringing that up, I was wondering, and if this is something, and throw this out to the group, if we have our next meeting, and by the way, our next meeting will not be able to be here physically because of reconstruction, right?
Yes.
The whole facility with funds from the Secure Act that the city has available that make it safer for everybody who uses the facility, right?
Correct.
So, you know, Ann had said we could perhaps, depending on where we're at with Wassermann, take a look at Wassermann, which would be really nice. And hopefully we wouldn't have snowfall by that time, a blizzard. Another could be we could have a virtual call, and maybe we could just have a abbreviated call and take a look at the capital improvement plan. Might be valuable, because that really sort of gives a guide to current thinking on maybe what our priorities are for spending what, when, over, because it goes through, it's a 5-year layout, a pro forma, goes through 2027. I would indicate as a background on these, and Ann, if you could help with this, the capital improvement plan is really a planning tool that the staff develops to, not just in this area, but in all areas, to look at what kind of expenditure items we might be looking out over each of those 5 years. You know, it's fluid, it changes every year, right, Ann?
Yes. It generally does.
And it's not something where these are the approved items. It's not that kind of document. And in fact, even if you're in the year of things like this, specific projects have to be actually literally approved by the city council. So I just want to make sure we don't misunderstand what it is. But I think it might be a valuable thing to take a look at. It may be that the discussion about the pickleball courts sort of brought this forward, but I think it'd be a good thing to look at with Ann regardless of pickleball courts? If that would be good, Ann?
Yes, and we'll certainly get more information on the specifics of each item as well, so within the CIP and then the updated performa too.
But it's definitely a living, breathing.
Yes, yeah.
It's a tool. One other comment about the pickleball. You know, we're living in this era of COVID now, and it's hard to picture there'll be a period when we're not, which I'm really looking forward to, everyone else. We do have the facility for pickleball, and I don't know how many courts are in there. 6 courts. You know, I think we also need to look at this and say, okay, because this is, you know, everything we do is from a long-term perspective. Let's say we have 6 active year-round pickleball courts. How does that fit into, in terms of it being a priority and a need? How does that fit in with then augmenting that, or vice versa, with outdoor courts? And we haven't necessarily had that. Maybe we discussed that briefly last time, I don't recall. I don't know if we have to totally vet that out, but give you a chance to react to that, Jeanette.
Well, I'll just give you the example of, normally what we would do is the indoor pickleball time was reduced because there were some people that really just liked to play indoor, period. But the times available became less. And then as the city had summer programs, things that the kids used the gym and that, so there were a lot of times when the gym wasn't available anyway. So the outdoor courts are really just packed. So during the summer, the outdoor courts are really, really utilized. And the indoor court in normal times was used some, but not as much. But if it rains or if it's too windy, then people have an option to go indoors, and they will. So I don't think one would cancel out the other. They kind of worked in conjunction. And as I said, some of the rec programs during the summer, they needed the gym for other activities, for you know, camps and things like that. And plus, if it's raining and they have camp activities, day camps outside, then they come in and then pickleball gets booted. So it works. So, but one doesn't cancel the other out, I would say.
Okay. All righty. Any last comments? Ann, did you have anything final thoughts?
Nope.
Okay, great. And we're going to move on to other business and Recreation Center operations and memberships update. Ann?
Sure. Just to provide a brief update to you, as you know, we did open back on June 15th with reduced hours and limited capacity. We have continued to try to increase that and make additional activities available to our members. We still require that people that are using the facility to make an appointment on Acuity, and you can find all this information out on our city website. Fitness classes are still being offered in person, and they are using the outside space yet, unless of weather conditions. And then we are moving them indoors in the gym, just to keep that socially distanced. And then we're still offering some virtual classes as well. So we're really just doing the fitness classes on a monthly basis and making adjustments to them as needed. You know, we didn't know when the school year started what that was going to look like. So we're trying to monitor those times and working with the instructors, you know, because a lot of them have kids that also need to get to school. So opening time of school changed. You know, some kids are staying home. So we're continuing to work on that with our instructors. But wintertime, we will move all those classes indoors and then also continue to offer virtual classes. And the virtual is getting a little bit less because, you know, the instructors really like to have those in-person classes. It's really challenging to offer virtual ones, but we'll continue to do it. We did start daycare, offering daycare the first part of August, and that continues to be pretty slow. So we're going to obviously watch that and make adjustments as needed. Also, through our open gym program, we did allow pickleball to start, but on October 1, we're going to resume a full schedule of dedicated times to the pickleballers, and that information I provided you when those are, and so we're really trying to do our best to accommodate the needs throughout the community. You know, it includes the kids that are on those off days, which is Wednesdays, you know, to give them time in the gym or in the facility. But, you know, this is an ongoing, like I said, an ongoing thing that we're going to have to just continue to monitor as needed. So one other note, so the hockey, the 2 hockey rinks, which are managed through the school district, they were allowed, one group, breakaway hockey, was allowed to start in June. And so now we will have breakaway hockey and also the Chanchaska Hockey Association. They are both planning fall programs starting in September. Each organization that will be utilizing those rinks has to submit a COVID plan to the school district for their approval, and it's got to follow the governor's directive on indoor space. So we will get a look at that. I'm anticipating pretty soon, because one of the things that we've been hearing a lot of is, you know, people want to come in and watch, particularly scrimmages and games. So we're trying to get those folks in to the facility as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out, and making sure that we maintain our capacity in the entire facility. So membership numbers, you know, we're in flux a little bit from month to month. On August 1, we reactivated all memberships, and we have seen, you know, people quit, and then people come back, new people come in, so it's been interesting to see. But obviously, our numbers from last year, from the end of January to August 31st, they're down. We've down about 78 memberships and 224 members, and obviously our visits are down as well. Fitness classes are going quite well. Over the past couple months, we've had almost 800 and so some people participate in the fitness classes, and then I'm anticipating now with pickleball joining the ranks, will pick up more people. So yeah, it's been interesting, and it'll be an interesting fall and winter to see where COVID goes, and how plans will change or not change depending upon the number. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions related to that.
Well, I continue to use the fitness center. It's been easy to make a reservation. I pick times when I know it's not busy. I think I went up there and I was the only one up there. Of course, I didn't realize it was a Vikings game. I don't keep track, so I went, wow, this is pretty empty in here, but it was nice for me to be there by myself. But everything's well marked, well labeled, easy to process. Seems to be going well. And I thought, when looking at the member visits between 2020 and 2019, you know, that it was, I'm surprised it's, you know, not less. You know, I thought there'd be much more of a difference, way more than what that is, but I know it's down, but
Yep.
I was expecting a lot worse.
And, you know, and we've got, you know, well, when you look back, I mean, if you look back at the you know, the memberships back in August of 2019, I think it's a bigger number than what it was at the start of the year. So like these numbers do fluctuate quite a bit, especially with, you know, the various membership packages that we have. You know, the day that I run this report, we could pick up a bunch of monthly memberships that have kind of fallen by the wayside, but then they might join next week. So the numbers don't always tell the true story of what's going on. But yeah, you know, and we'll see as time goes by. But you know, I'm certainly concerned in watching what those numbers are. Membership dollars, you know, are fairly significant in our overall budget. You know, and when we think about, you know, nationally, they're saying, you know, 25% of the people are not going to come back to an indoor gym, which, you know, that's a pretty significant amount of members that we could potentially lose. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, you know, and like you said, it fluctuates, but we're down 13% in memberships, minus 15% in members, and we're down, again, this is just for the data set that we have, and we're down 30% in visits. So I know, like for me, my membership is still there, I just haven't been using it, and with the idea that I'm not going to drop it because I'll end up using it anyway at some point, why bother dropping it? But that is substantial. The one good thing, and I know we always talked about this pre-COVID, is that it's one of the best deals around. You know, in terms of whatever metric you want to look at, but certainly value on the dollar, and that won't change. So I guess I'd like to think that you know, there's a way that we have some uniqueness to the value of the fitness center, that we can, membership of the recreation center, that we can draw back enough people, and with new people, that we can kind of get back on the growth track even.
Yeah, you know, generally the members that have requested to you know, cancel their membership, they all, you know, preface it by saying, we love it, we want to be there, but we're not comfortable. As soon as this is done, we'll be back. So I'm hopeful that at some point we will be back on track again. So
I know you had indicated about, you know, that there's a definite revenue loss this year, and there will be next year. The recreation center has been self-funding, correct, Dan?
yeah, through our partnership with the school district, yes.
And that certainly is a part of the revenue source that helps
Yep.
to make it self-funding, to help make sure we get the mortgage paid. But we do have a pot of money that is substantial, that's really there to help us with roof replacement, major equipment replacement, HVAC, parking lot, et cetera. So it's there for a reason, because those are substantial costs. But Ann, is it true that we'll be dipping into that a little bit in essence, and having to draw that down just
Yes,
fortunately a little
yeah.
bit?
Yes, it will be. We'll be able to. Yeah, unfortunately, have to use that to make up for some of our losses. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Ann. And let's see, we're going to move on to the articles and information related to park and recreation. A lot of times we've just referenced it. I think this is we're in pretty good shape time-wise. And I was telling Ann, this is really good information because it gives big picture on the regional trails. So I'm hoping, Ann, we can spend a little time on this, on these trails, make sure everybody's has a full understanding of the big picture on all these trails that you've outlined here.
I know, I took quite a long look at them, and, it helped me to understand the Highway 5, regional trail and how that was going. And so a couple people had asked me about it, particularly what's going on at the ARB and the Highway 5 and that. So, that was very helpful information to be able to share with my neighbors too.
Yeah, the Highway 5 trail project, which, Ann, I don't know if you want to reference it, Ann, you've got it up here, picture of it. But that's under construction right now. It's a huge project.
I didn't know what was happening there at 41 and 5. I mean, there
You go into the,
trains and, phew,
you go into the ARB and you see the
Yeah.
amount of
Man.
truckloads of
a lot of
stuff that's going on. And it will basically connect, there'll be an underpass under 41 that is huge in and of itself. And that's over by Lifetime. And then you can see, it runs south along the Arboretum property. And then it will connect up ultimately then with the underpass that it currently exists off of Minnewaska Parkway. And then on the north side, connect back to the existing trail, and that'll get us, keep going west, that'll get us all the way out to Victoria, and to Rolling Acres, and to Bavaria, and then we're off to the races. And vice versa in terms of east-west and west-east. So this will allow Chanhassen people to get to be in Victoria, to go downtown Victoria, and vice versa. And when is this completed by again?
I believe it is next year sometime.
Yeah.
Ways out yet.
Yeah, it was it received some regional or federal transportation dollars for it. But this little trail, it's about I think it's about 1.8 miles maybe, and it's in about the 6.7 or $6.8 million
Wow.
project. So our little 1 mile trail for 1.1 is not bad.
Yeah.
It's all relative, yeah.
Speaking of that trail that we talked about last time, is there any update on where we're at with that, or what happened after that discussion that we had at our last meeting?
So I will be going to the city council next Monday to provide an update to them on the trail with the preliminary estimates and the funding to be over a 2-year period of time from the trail fund, because we'll be able to handle that over a 2-year period of time. So that's what I'll be going to the council for, just to get some affirmation that we want to continue on with that. So.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a good question. So with the ability to spread it out over 2 years, although that's misleading, because it would be more of the latter part of the 1 year and then the beginning part of the other year?
Right, the grant, we received the DNR grant, and that has to be, everything has to be done by like June 30th of 2022. So the project has to be done by then.
So I think the council will be going over the deep dive on that with the council, just like with us, and hopefully they'll be able to say, yeah, let's take the next step then. So thank you for asking, Larry, because it's huge. You indicated that of our priorities, the trails are Wassermann, and which is now moving forward, but the trail program and that particular trail are number one. So, and then they know that. So hopefully with the update, they'll be able to say, yes, very good work, and let's go forward. And it is interesting to see this Trunk Highway 5 Regional Trail Arboretum connection, because it all ties together. As we begin slowly, but step by step to make these connections possible, it starts to add up in terms of really having accessibility to the whole region. Okay.
So yeah, within the information too, I've kind of given you some, there was an update from Carver County regarding the Regional 5 project that we were just discussing. Also the Dakota Rail Regional Trail. Little bit of an update on that one. And then also the Southwest Regional Trail connection, which is, I'll show you a map here shortly, unless I can get to it. No, I cannot. So that's the one that really affects the city. That is the trail connection from Chaska through Victoria and up into Carver Park. So that shows the proposed Southwest Regional Trail. So it comes out of the Minnesota Bluffs up through Chaska, and the intent initially was to take it on Marsh Lake Road and then up through Lake Bridge, and then hit the Minnetonka Regional Trail. So we're looking at alternatives and options with the county to try to make sure we get that connected. So
What, we're looking at significant years on this.
yep. Yes, it will be. But that the planning starts somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That Church Lake Road piece is gonna be the interesting one, don't you think? That little piece in there? Because when we walked it, remember, we drove it and tried to figure out
Yeah.
what we could do.
Yeah. So that's why this one kind of was the Marsh Lake Road one was. It'll still be included if and whenever it becomes a county road. But so yeah, we work pretty closely with the county on trying to figure out ways to get these things done and connected. So
Yeah, on the Dakota Rail Regional Trail, I don't know if any of you have had an opportunity to bike that or not.
The Dakota one, yeah.
Yeah, really, you can go all the way out to New Germany, and that's the Carver County line into McLeod County. And you can go all the way, and it talks about St. Bonnie, but you can keep going, and you can go all the way into Wayzata. And I've done that, not this year, but a number of times actually, and you can do east or west or portions thereof. It's now that particular trail all the way into Wayzata is technically not the Dakota Rail Regional Trail, right, Ann?
correct.
That is the Minnetonka Regional Trail, I think.
I'd have to double check.
I'm confused.
I know. I'd have to double check that one, John.
Not sure.
I think it's the Minnetonka Regional Trail. So it's pretty exciting to see all of that.
Yeah.
What else do I have? I guess that was it for articles.
Thank you, Ann. That's great to see that. And I think we're going to be setting a new record today. Because our meetings seem to go, our goal is to always end at 8. We always end up going to 8:30. And Claudio, our member who is very good about coming, but he wasn't able to make it tonight, he's missing out on an early adjournment, I think. Ann, is there anything else that you have?
No, I have nothing else to report on.
Okay, does anyone else have anything to bring up? Okay, thank you as always, Ann, for your dedication and also providing a great agenda and lots of agenda preparation. We appreciate that. With that, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll move to second.
Section.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.